Wow, is she doing long form video? I think she is. Welcome to Killer Kate's Haunted House Date. I just want to yap about Universal's Horror Unleashed. Gonna go over my experience. I was just there this past weekend. They've been open for just 2 weeks, so I'm wearing a Universal appropriate shirt and let's get into it. Universal Horror Unleashed was announced in January of 2023. Been excited about it since they announced it, but I haven't really kept up with every detail, etc. So when it finally had an opening date, I was very excited. I knew I had to plan a trip. A little bit of Killer Kate lore. Vegas is one of my favorite places in the world. I think it's a ridiculous town. I think there are ridiculous things to do. I think it is incredibly over the top, and all of that. I love that. I have been to Area 15 many times. Rewind. Area 15 is an indoor kind of like mall. It's this centralized building where businesses operate inside of, but it's definitely not a traditional mall by any means. They have the Meow Wolf Omega Mart situated in there, which is this really fun, interactive, immersive, psychedelic, strange art experience. I would highly recommend that, especially if you're going out for Horror Unleashed. Just make a day of both. It's a lot of fun. There's a speakeasy inside. Horror Unleashed was announced as part of Area 15's expansion in this larger project that they have going on. I was going with both my partners, and we all got the GA. I think they're both considered GA tickets. There's a resident ticket if you're a Nevada resident. I think it's only $10 cheaper than regular GA, which allows you to go through each house or maze one time. And then they have a GA ticket that is as many times through as you want to go. Each ticket does require you to choose an entry time. So we went Friday, we chose an entry time of 4:20. Because nothing else is open in this new phase for Area 15, it will feel different once things start opening over there, of course. Right now it just feels like there's some cool art, there's some cool things to look at. It will 5 minutes to look at. It was also 115 degrees Fahrenheit when we were out there, so we weren't trying to spend much time outdoors. Yeah, it's this huge warehouse. Truly, from the second you get there, you're like, okay, yeah, okay. And the entrance is quite cool. There's a lot of lore about this particular facade and this warehouse and the storyline of Horror Unleashed. I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on that, but I'm sure many folks have videos on that deep dive. Go through security, they do bag check, all the normal things. And yeah, it just kind of spits you out into this massive Universal warehouse. There's a lot of characters roaming around. You're pretty immediately greeted by the huge boiler bar. It's beautiful and smart, and the drinks are good. The staff was really friendly. I would recommend that you hang out there for a while, just people watching the characters interact. I will also say I have fully fleshed out all my thoughts on my review blog, www.killerkate.rip. I'll put it in the description for you to read all of that. For this video, I'm not going to go through every single detail. I really just wanted to focus on the houses themselves and be able to yap a little more in depth there than I am able to do. Well, I guess than I do on the blog. So first, it is important to know that at Horror Unleashed, there is no Cataline, conga line method of haunt queue. They do paste entry, so that means you tell them how many people are in your party, that is how many people go through. So they have a literal stopwatch at the beginning of each walkthrough, and they're pacing you, so that you kind of have that more intimate experience. That was one thing I was most excited for Horror Unleashed, and I do feel like that went as smoothly as it can. There were 2 walkthroughs where the group behind us did catch up, but we were trying to take our time, while, continuing to move. And something I found unique at Horror Unleashed was they do hold you in the maze or the house, whatever. They do hold you for like a more theatrical experience, I guess you could say, at Horror Unleashed. They don't do that at HHN because they're trying to get so many people through. It's really nice, and it adds this level of like you're the only ones in there, and people you may or may not catch up to the people in front of you or the people behind you, etc. Just know that like that's a thing, but they are trying to keep it just to your party, and I think they're doing a pretty good job of that. Pretty specific. They do go each walkthrough breaks. I think they're on for 45 minutes and off for about 15 minutes. A part of the experience that the walkthrough you might want to go, and right then you might have to wait a little bit. I think this is really clever from a business standpoint because it pushes traffic in specific places. Okay, now let's finally, is she done talking about things before the thing she said she was going to talk about? Yeah, maybe. The first house we decided to do was Scarecrow the Reaping. Now, this is an HHN original. It is my understanding that the first year that they had this was in 2017 in Orlando. And in my years at HHN Hollywood, it hasn't been there. It will be at HHN Hollywood this year, so I'll have 2 versions within a short time to compare to each other. I did hear on multiple early reviews from media, from team member previews, that Scarecrow the Reaping was the scariest walkthrough at Horror Unleashed, so that was my expectation. It wasn't the scariest, I don't think, personally. I can and probably will repeat myself, but number one thing is the set design is gorgeous. They have this huge amount of space. Like, the ceilings are so tall. They don't even use all of the space available, which is a little bit of a bummer, I guess. But the sets are beautiful. The lighting design, I'm sure I could look it up and see who the lighting designer is. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's truly beautiful. I think they really like, they just lead the market in that, which you would hope that would always be true, given that they're a film studio. But yes, it is truly like beautiful. And so this was my first experience of this world of Scarecrow the Reaping, and I think it comes across really strong. The story cohesion, like you immediately are like, yep, got it, clocked it, know exactly where I am and what's going on. I won't spoil it for you, but where they hold you and what happens, and I don't know if this happens for every single iteration or we just got lucky. The moment with the wind, let's say maybe there's wind involved. That was really cool. I like have this Rolodex in my mind of like all the coolest haunt mechanics that I've ever experienced, and that's definitely going in there. Like they could have done a lot more with the cornfield mirror room. We unfortunately didn't have any jumps in there, and I think that's probably what people were talking about when they say it's the scariest. Yeah. And then the group behind us ended up catching up to us in that moment too, which scared me because I was like, oh my gosh, there's people everywhere. But, well, there was just people everywhere. So, yeah, I think for me that was just a little bit of a miss. I was disappointed, and that since that was the first one, I was like, oh no. The next one we did was Exorcist Believer. I believe this was at both Orlando and Hollywood in 2023. I know I did it in Hollywood. Horror Unleashed has really immersive queues. So there's like the outside queue, like before you walk in. They count you, they scan your ticket, and after you get your ticket scanned, then you walk into the immersive queue, and that's where someone is waiting to pace you. There's just these two areas for waiting. And once you've been scanned through and you're waiting, they're all really immersive. The Exorcist Believer one was particularly impressive. Very, like, really gets you to understand where you are quite immediately. And yeah, it was really fun. Everyone that was working in there seemed to be having a lot of fun with their role and with their character. All of the girls were creepy and funny, and I love that. There was a particular moment where they hold you in there for a theatrical experience. It was just so cool. And then there's this whole funny moment. You know what? There's a whole funny moment. Maybe I'll just clip it in. They really nailed it for an iteration of something we've already seen before. And that kind of rolls us right into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because that was an example for me of something I've walked through before that actually was less impressive than the time that I've gone through. And The Exorcist was actually a more interesting, different version. So I think for me, if you're going to do properties, if you're going to do things you've already done at previous horror nights, it has to be more interesting, more scary. You know what I mean? Like, people are expecting more because you've already given them that. So I feel that did happen with Exorcist Believer. I do not feel that was delivered with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which Hollywood had in 2024. So just last year. And it was one of my favorites, if not my most favorite. An IP we're all familiar with, but scary and fun. I liked the story. I thought a lot of the haunt mechanics were really cool, and they just didn't have any of that at Horror Unleashed. They don't use smells. They very limited amount of fog happening. Like, just like in one walkthrough did we notice fog. There's none of that like squirting blood or bodily fluids of any kind, which I do understand. I just think that then is heavily reliant on the set and the scare acting. However, I do feel like it lacked all of the most creative elements. So, I would give that very, very low on the scary originality, fresh take. So I think we were all a bit disappointed in Texas Chainsaw. I think we were all rated it the lowest. This might be an example of like if you catch it at a different day, at a different time, staffed differently, it could feel different. But I think at the end of it all, it's still missing those like big impressive pieces. So that leaves us with Universal Monsters. Should I start doing ASMR reviews? You may or may not know this about me, but I love Universal Monsters, Frankenstein in particular. I have a leg piece of the monsters, some of them. And I just really, like, for me, that's my favorite. That's my favorite thing. I love them. I think the fact that they pull from classic literature, et cetera, I just throw that tidbit in. So I always do have high expectations for the Universal Monster houses that Universal does, because I feel that that's obvious and a given. It's what put them on the map for horror. It's what makes sense. But all that Halloween Horror Nights has ever given me is somewhat of a disappointment in the Universal Monster Maze department. My expectations were low going into Horror Unleashed, but I was a little, I was like, but I've seen a walkthrough. I've seen a walkthrough, and it was looking so cool. I was so excited. So we saved it for last. The queue is immediately insane. Why can't I live in there? Why can't that be my apartment? It is the busts of all of the monsters are so sick. If this iteration existed in Orlando, I'm not aware of it. So you walk through, the story is not like super immediately obvious, but you get an idea of what story they're telling pretty quickly. And each kind of section of the walkthrough is dedicated to each Universal monster. Like, if you love Universal monsters, here they all are, so you're going to get your favorite. Also, like, the love for Creature is important to me. And I hardly ever see something quite so dedicated to the Mummy, and yeah, I just thought it was really well done. We had went to the Premiere House, which is the restaurant inside of Horror Unleashed, and we were just yapping with the server, who was really lovely, by the way. All of the staff that we got to talk to were, and they were saying that they are an HHN fan. They go to both Hollywood and Orlando every year. So, like, I love that they're working at Horror Unleashed. They were saying that for them, Universal Monsters was too campy. However, I love camp, especially when it comes to horror, especially when it comes to a haunt. I think it really is a sign of a clever designer if you know when to lean more heavily on scary or more heavily on campy. And I think without a doubt, it was the smarter idea to go with campiness for Universal Monsters. It is a little campy, but it's also like not poorly done. It is immaculate. So like while the idea might be campy, it's gorgeous. Like I would live in there. Are you not having the time of your life? Like the bell tower room, nothing was really going on in there when we walked through, so I don't know if something happens with like that whole area, but it was gorgeous. And I saw Frankie more than once. I saw Creature more than once. We did only get the bride once, which I don't know if that was just our walkthrough or that is how it is designed. Yeah, I really had a good time in there. I immediately, like, as soon as we exited, I was like, that's the one, that's the one, that's the one. Like, for that to be so highly rated for me, like, out of any haunt that I've been through, because it's a thing that I really love and they did it really well. So I think, to me, it just, people are like, is it worth it? Should I go? It depends. Like, it depends what your disposable income is. It depends what themes you like. Are these houses interesting to you? Because it's not cheap. It's not, for what you get, it's not cheap. I think they're going to have to figure out pricing for sure. So when we went, it was $89 a ticket, and I do not feel like that was good value for the amount of money we spent. I don't think it's off by much, but I do think it has to come down for me to just blindly say yes, go to anyone. I think yes, go if you are interested in those houses, if you want to see the earliest iteration of this year-round haunt experience that they're experimenting with, if you just have the money, if you're in Vegas and have the money in particular. Obviously, I made a whole weekend of it and that there's costs involved there. So I think you have to decide for you and your situation if you want to go or if you don't. I'm not going to just make a general statement that this is for everyone, because it definitely is not. You could easily be very disappointed if you go in with expectations that this will be an HHN experience. It's something new. It's something completely different. It's its own thing. But if you're feeling sad, if you're missing Haunt and it's February, it's incredibly special that I can just pop over to Vegas. The sets, again, the sets are gorgeous, and there's a lot of excitement, and there are things that could be different. There are kinks to be worked out, but overall, it was really fun. I enjoyed it, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Did you like the walkthroughs that you experienced? Do you agree with my opinion? I love talking about it, even if we disagree. I love hearing about other people's thoughts. So definitely drop comments, let's yap, and hopefully I do more of these videos. If you aren't subscribed and you're seeing this, check the description. I will drop the longer written version of our review that goes over vegan food, drinks, the show, all of those things, and more. And please subscribe. I do hope to do more long form and post more on YouTube. I'll see you in the fall.